The sky darkened as clouds gathered, signaling a storm stronger than anyone had anticipated in the remote wilderness. Snow began to fall, thick and heavy, quickly covering the ground and turning familiar trails into a frozen maze. A pack of wolves, hunting and roaming as they always had, suddenly found themselves trapped by the relentless blizzard. The wind howled through the trees as visibility vanished, leaving the predators disoriented and struggling to survive. Icicles formed on fur and branches, and the wolves pressed forward, searching desperately for shelter or open ground. Like and subscribe to witness more incredible stories where nature tests the limits of survival in the wild. The storm intensified, burying the forest floor under meters of snow, making movement nearly impossible for any creature. Hunters, rangers, and wildlife observers could only watch from afar, powerless against the sheer force of the elements. Each gust of wind carried a deadly reminder that even the strongest and most agile animals are vulnerable to nature's wrath. By nightfall, the wolves huddled together, clinging to life as the blizzard raged without mercy across the frozen land. 1. The storm approaches. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, signaling the arrival of a massive and relentless blizzard. Villagers and wildlife sensed the shift in weather as temperatures dropped rapidly and winds howled. The first flurries of snow began, quickly intensifying into thick drifts that covered fields and forests. Wolves, accustomed to harsh winters, initially sought shelter among trees and rocky terrain. The blizzard's severity grew, with snow accumulating at unprecedented rates, burying familiar landmarks. Visibility dropped to near zero, making it difficult for both humans and animals to navigate safely. Icicles formed on branches, and frozen ponds became treacherous surfaces for all living beings. The blizzard's roar was deafening, with wind gusts uprooting smaller trees and scattering debris. Wildlife instinctively moved to sheltered areas, but the speed and ferocity of the storm caught many off guard. Villagers secured homes, covering windows and stocking supplies in anticipation of the extreme snowfall. Temperature plummeted dangerously, increasing the risk of frostbite and hypothermia for exposed animals. Roads became impassable quickly, isolating communities and delaying potential rescue efforts. The storm's unpredictability created tension, leaving residents and wildlife struggling to anticipate its path. Even experienced hunters and guides warned that this blizzard could be unlike anything seen before. Snowdrifts grew taller than fences and rooftops, creating barriers and obstacles across the landscape. The storm raged through the day, transforming the environment into a frozen, chaotic expanse. Wolves huddled together for warmth, seeking protection in dens, caves, and dense thickets. Trees bent under the weight of accumulated snow, some collapsing onto animal paths and homes. Every creature faced survival challenges, requiring energy conservation and strategic shelter seeking. The approaching blizzard marked the beginning of a harrowing test for wolves and humans alike. 2. Wolves seek shelter. As the blizzard intensified, wolves struggled to find adequate protection from deep snow and fierce winds. They huddled in packs, relying on body warmth and collective survival strategies to endure freezing temperatures. Natural shelters such as caves and dense brush offered some refuge but were quickly covered by snow. Snowdrifts blocked entrances, forcing wolves to dig tunnels and maintain airflow to prevent suffocation. The blizzard's howling winds scattered snow across valleys, increasing isolation for many wolf packs. Food became scarce as hunting was impossible in heavy snowfall, leaving wolves dependent on stored energy. Exposure to relentless wind and cold led to exhaustion and heightened vulnerability among weaker members. Wolves adjusted their behavior, conserving energy by remaining motionless for extended periods. Some ventured cautiously through shallow drifts to find water or minimal vegetation to sustain themselves. The instinct to survive drove wolves to seek every possible shelter, even if it meant risk from falling snow. Families of wolves stayed close, ensuring pups were protected at the center of dens or sheltered areas. Older wolves guided younger ones, teaching navigation and survival in extreme winter conditions. Avalanche-prone slopes posed additional danger as the blizzard shifted snow unpredictably across terrain. Fallen trees and snow-covered rocks became both obstacles and makeshift shelters for the stranded animals. Wolves relied on keen senses to detect movement and threats, minimizing energy loss while navigating snow. The storm created an environment where only adaptive strategies could ensure survival through relentless cold. Survival instincts dominated behavior, overriding normal hunting and territorial patterns temporarily. Even in dens, snow accumulation threatened to trap wolves inside, requiring constant digging and attention. The blizzard forced wolves to balance the need for shelter with the need to find sustenance to survive. The struggle to endure highlighted the harsh reality of nature during extreme winter storms. 3. Human observation. Villagers observed the blizzard's effect on local wildlife, noting wolves struggle to cope with the snow. Hunters reported seeing tracks partially buried, indicating the severity of snowfall and wind accumulation. Elder villagers warned that the blizzard could lead to casualties among both humans and animals. People stayed indoors, observing wolves cautiously through windows or binoculars, understanding their plight. Tracks indicated that wolves were forced to reroute paths and abandon traditional hunting grounds temporarily. Some villagers left minimal food supplies near safe areas, hoping to assist struggling wildlife discreetly. Observation revealed behavioral changes, including slower movement and unusual group formations among wolves. Villagers documented the storm's impact to report to wildlife authorities and prepare for rescue operations. Families shared observations, noting which areas were most treacherous due to deep snow accumulation. Understanding wolf patterns helped humans predict potential encounters and avoid conflicts during survival. Local guides mapped snowdrifts, dens, and vulnerable terrain, assisting both humans and emergency teams. Observation of wolves became a teaching opportunity for children, highlighting nature's harsh realities. Villagers learned to respect the wolves' adaptation skills and resilience under extreme conditions. Monitoring helped prevent accidental human-wolf encounters that could endanger both parties during the blizzard. Snow-covered roads and paths complicated movement, making observation from a distance safer and more effective. 4. Starvation threat. The blizzard blocked access to prey, creating severe starvation risk for wolves trapped in snowbound areas. Rabbits, deer, and smaller animals were buried or hidden, leaving wolves without normal hunting opportunities. Energy reserves depleted quickly, forcing wolves to conserve strength and minimize movement wherever possible. Pups were particularly vulnerable, relying on adult wolves for warmth and partial sustenance. Snowdrifts prevented normal foraging patterns, making hunting nearly impossible for several days. Weak and injured wolves faced heightened mortality risk as the storm continued unabated. Even scavenging became difficult, as snow-covered carcasses and natural food sources were inaccessible. Pack dynamics shifted, with stronger wolves taking priority for limited food while protecting vulnerable members. Villagers observed malnourished wolves cautiously, noting signs of extreme hunger and exhaustion. Starvation threatened to reduce pack sizes, impacting future hunting efficiency and territorial stability. Survival depended on adaptive strategies, including conserving energy and seeking minimal nourishment opportunistically. Environmental stress led to unusual behavior, with wolves venturing into unfamiliar areas in desperation. Winter storms are especially deadly for predators reliant on mobility and energy to secure prey. Blizzard conditions disrupted natural cycles, delaying access to water and vegetation for extended periods. 5. Avalanche danger. The blizzard created unstable snow layers, leading to sudden avalanches that threatened wolves and terrain. Steep slopes became treacherous, forcing wolves to navigate carefully to avoid burial under heavy snow. Falling trees and debris triggered by strong winds added to the avalanche risk across forested areas. Wolves instinctively avoided slopes showing signs of movement, relying on experience and instinctual cues. Snow accumulation created pressure points that could collapse without warning, endangering nearby wildlife. Packs huddled together in flatter areas to minimize exposure to sliding snow and debris. Even experienced adult wolves faced difficulties predicting avalanches during intense snowstorms. The storm's unpredictability meant that safe zones could quickly become dangerous within minutes. Villagers observing from a distance warned against approaching avalanche-prone areas to avoid human injury. Tracking wolf movement showed careful route selection and avoidance of unstable snow-covered slopes. Avalanches occasionally forced packs to change dens, seeking new shelter in safer terrain. Snowdrifts from sliding snow blocked familiar paths, creating additional challenges for survival. Wolves displayed heightened alertness, listening for unusual snow sounds and adjusting behavior immediately. The risk of avalanche compounded starvation and hypothermia, intensifying survival pressure on the packs. Communication within packs helped pups and weaker members stay safe while navigating unstable zones. Snow layers shifted constantly, creating a dynamic environment demanding constant attention and adaptation. Even temporary clearings were short-lived, as wind and snow quickly restored hazards. Observation indicated that natural instincts and caution were the wolves' primary defense against avalanches. Environmental conditions highlighted the interconnected risks of snow, wind, and terrain during storms. The avalanche threat underscored the deadly combination of natural forces wolves had to endure in extreme winters. 6. Hypothermia risk. Prolonged exposure to freezing temperatures put wolves at serious risk of hypothermia and frostbite. Pups and injured wolves were particularly vulnerable, relying on pack members to maintain warmth. Snow-covered dens and shelters provided some protection but were often insufficient during continuous storms. Wolves huddled together, sharing body heat to preserve energy and prevent dangerous temperature drops. Strong winds increased heat loss, reducing survival time for exposed wolves in open terrain. Energy conservation became critical, with wolves remaining stationary for extended periods to avoid hypothermia. Fur insulation was less effective when covered with ice and wet snow, compounding cold exposure risks. Villagers observed that wolves seemed sluggish or lethargic during periods of extreme cold. Older wolves guided younger ones to protected areas, balancing movement with warmth retention needs. Ice and snow around water sources created additional hazards, forcing wolves to find safer hydration points. Survival depended on shelter selection, group cohesion, and minimizing exposure to the harshest conditions. Snow drifts could collapse onto resting wolves, causing rapid cooling and increased hypothermia risk. Even minor injuries slowed wolves' ability to generate body heat, increasing mortality potential. The blizzard forced wolves to adapt by remaining in insulated dens whenever possible, minimizing energy loss. 7. Snowdrift traps. Deep snowdrifts trapped some wolves, restricting movement and creating dangerous isolation. Packs had to dig through snow or find alternative routes to escape being immobilized in drifts. Pups often required adult assistance to climb or move across deep, densely packed snow areas. Snow accumulation sometimes covered small obstacles, leading to injuries or disorientation. Villagers noticed tracks ending abruptly in drifts, signaling trapped or struggling wolves. Trapped wolves were forced to conserve energy while attempting to escape, delaying hunting and foraging. Movement became slower and more exhausting, increasing vulnerability to hypothermia and predators. Snowdrift entrapment forced temporary den abandonment and relocation to safer areas. Avalanche-prone slopes increased risk when wolves tried to escape deep drifts quickly. Energy loss while digging or climbing through snow affected strength and survival probability. Observation revealed that wolves assessed drift depth before attempting passage to avoid entrapment. Young wolves were at highest risk, requiring constant guidance from adults to navigate snow hazards. Drifts formed near rivers, hills, and open plains, creating unpredictable obstacles for migrating packs. Repeated entrapment incidents forced wolves to adapt routes and movement strategies continuously. 8. Pups in peril. Wolf pups faced extreme danger during the blizzard, being less capable of enduring cold and exhaustion. Adults formed protective circles around pups, providing warmth and minimizing exposure to wind and snow. Snow accumulation around dens sometimes blocked exits, threatening to trap pups inside. Weak or undernourished pups risked hypothermia and frostbite more quickly than adults. Pack coordination became essential, with older wolves ensuring all pups were accounted for during movement. Snowdrifts and ice patches posed additional hazards, challenging young wolves' limited mobility. Hungry pups depended on regurgitated food from adults, but scarcity reduced available nutrition. Even brief exposure outside dens could lead to severe cold injury or exhaustion in pups. Parent wolves rotated positions, keeping pups at the center of the group for maximum protection. Relentless snowfall forced pups to adapt quickly to extreme conditions, building early resilience. Avalanche and snowdrift risks added urgency to careful pup management during storm progression. Pup survival influenced overall pack cohesion and success during prolonged periods without food. Extreme weather events tested instinctive behavior, with adults prioritizing pup safety over other tasks. 9. Frostbite effects. Frostbite began affecting extremities of exposed wolves, particularly ears, tails, and paws. Persistent cold and wind chapped skin and reduced blood flow, impairing mobility and sensitivity. Weaker wolves suffered more quickly, slowing movement and increasing risk of isolation or predation. Snow-covered surfaces forced constant contact with freezing terrain, exacerbating frostbite. Adult wolves guarded affected individuals, offering warmth and preventing further injury. Villagers noted that wolves moved cautiously, favoring sheltered terrain to protect vulnerable limbs. Pups were highly susceptible, requiring close proximity to adults to avoid severe cold injury. Frostbite reduced hunting efficiency, as affected wolves could not chase prey effectively. Behavioral adaptations included limiting exposure, alternating resting positions, and avoiding ice patches. Tracking paw prints revealed subtle changes in gait, indicating pain or reduced mobility from frostbite. Ice accumulation on fur worsened heat loss, increasing the likelihood of tissue damage. Snowdrifts and wind contributed to rapid progression of frostbite without shelter or protection. Wolves adjusted travel distances and pace, conserving energy and minimizing further exposure. Observations indicated social behavior shifted to protect frostbitten individuals within the pack. Even minor frostbite could have long-term consequences on mobility and hunting capability. The blizzard emphasized how cold injury added to the already severe risks of starvation and exhaustion. 10. Villager response. Villagers worked tirelessly to track wolves, observing their struggle and ensuring human safety. Some left minimal food in safe areas to reduce starvation without endangering themselves. Families secured livestock and protected homes from wandering wolves seeking food or shelter. Observation posts allowed monitoring of snow-covered paths to avoid accidental encounters. Local authorities coordinated with wildlife experts to provide guidance on risk management. Emergency shelters were reinforced in case wolves approached populated areas unexpectedly. People learned to interpret wolf tracks and behaviors to predict movements during the blizzard. Temporary communication systems, including signals and horns, helped alert residents to danger. Families rotated shifts for observation, ensuring continuous monitoring throughout the storm. The community balanced concern for wildlife with precaution to protect human life and property. Children were educated to stay indoors and avoid wandering in deep snow where wolves roamed. Villager response emphasized patience, observation, and measured intervention to avoid conflict. Snowdrifts and poor visibility required extreme caution when moving near known wolf areas. 11. Rescue efforts. Authorities coordinated with wildlife experts to monitor wolves trapped in deep snow and dangerous areas. Teams prepared safe zones with minimal human interference to help animals survive the blizzard. Villagers were instructed to avoid approaching packs, reducing stress and risk of aggression from wolves. Emergency equipment included snow clearing tools and basic provisions for wildlife in extreme cold. Experts tracked pack locations using footprints, aerial surveys, and observation posts in open terrain. Some injured or trapped wolves were carefully freed from snowdrifts to prevent fatal outcomes. Snow shelters were reinforced to provide temporary protection for wolves exposed to harsh conditions. Monitoring teams documented the storm's progression and its impact on wildlife for future planning. Authorities emphasized non-intrusive methods, preserving natural survival behaviors while offering aid. Community volunteers supported observation efforts, reporting wolf movement and potential hazards promptly. Coordination reduced panic, ensured safety for humans, and minimized unnecessary interference with wolves. 12. Rebuilding dens. After the storm, wolves began rebuilding dens buried under heavy snow and debris throughout the forest. Adults dug through packed snow, clearing entrances and creating tunnels for airflow and safety. Pups were guided to newly constructed dens, ensuring protection from lingering cold and predators. Debris removal involved careful work to prevent collapse and maintain structural stability. Snowmelt eventually softened hardened snow, allowing packs to expand and reinforce shelter areas. Adults prioritized central tunnels for pups, keeping weaker members safe and warm within the den. Natural insulation materials, like leaves and twigs, were gathered to improve warmth and protection. Wolves alternated guard duties, ensuring that some members remained alert while others rested. Rebuilding dens helped restore pack cohesion after displacement caused by the blizzard. Observation revealed creativity and adaptability in wolf construction techniques under extreme conditions. Den locations were chosen strategically, away from avalanche-prone slopes and heavy snowdrifts. 13. Hunting challenges. Hunting became nearly impossible as snow covered prey tracks and reduced mobility for wolves across the landscape. Deer, rabbits, and smaller mammals were hidden beneath deep snowdrifts, forcing wolves to rely on scarce food sources. Energy expenditure during hunting increased significantly due to dense snow and strong wind resistance. Pups depended on adults to share limited food, highlighting pack cooperation and survival prioritization. Hunting schedules shifted to daylight hours when visibility improved and snow crusts were slightly firmer. Adults adjusted hunting strategies, using stealth and cooperative techniques to increase chances of success. Exhaustion and extreme cold reduced reaction time, slowing pursuit and capture of prey across difficult terrain. Hunters had to navigate avalanche-prone slopes carefully, balancing risk with the need to secure food. Scarcity caused temporary expansion of hunting grounds, forcing packs to explore unfamiliar territories cautiously. Tracking prey became more challenging, with snow covering subtle signs that wolves normally relied upon. Observation indicated packs avoided areas with excessive drift or wind exposure to conserve energy. Hunting success depended on pack coordination, with adults guiding pups and weaker members. Snow and ice-covered surfaces increased the likelihood of slips, injuries, or separation from the group. Even minor injuries could reduce overall hunting efficiency, affecting survival probabilities. Hunting pressure combined with starvation risk heightened stress levels across all pack members. 14. Snow blindness. Extended exposure to blinding snow and reflective sunlight caused temporary vision impairment among wolves. Snow blindness reduced the ability to navigate and locate prey or safe shelters during the day. Adults guided pups carefully, ensuring young wolves did not wander into dangerous snowdrifts. Behavioral adaptation included keeping heads low and avoiding open, reflective areas when possible. Snow blindness compounded exhaustion, reducing movement efficiency and survival chances. Observation revealed slower, cautious movements in exposed areas where sunlight reflected off snow surfaces. Wolf hunting efficiency declined as visual cues for tracking prey became less reliable. Pack cohesion was essential, with experienced adults leading and protecting visually impaired members. Dense forests and shaded areas provided natural protection against glare and temporary snow blindness. Energy conservation became critical while navigating visually challenging conditions to avoid injury. Snow blindness forced wolves to rely more heavily on hearing, smell, and instinct during movement. 15. Energy conservation. Wolves minimized movement to conserve energy during prolonged exposure to extreme cold and deep snow. Energy conservation was critical to survival when hunting and food access were severely limited. Packs huddled together, sharing body warmth and protecting weaker or injured members from the cold. Resting in sheltered dens reduced caloric expenditure and minimized frostbite and hypothermia risks. Adults guided pups to maintain safety while balancing energy use with feeding and movement needs. Limited movement prevented unnecessary calorie loss while ensuring access to minimal sustenance. Snowdrift navigation was reserved for essential tasks to avoid exhaustion and physical injury. Energy-saving strategies were instinctive, allowing wolves to endure prolonged storms with limited food. Observation revealed slowed hunting, reduced exploration, and careful route selection during extreme conditions. Pack cohesion enhanced survival, with adults supporting weaker members to prevent collapse or separation. Even minor exertion risked energy depletion, necessitating careful prioritization of survival tasks. Temporary shelters became critical energy-saving hubs, providing both warmth and protection. Movement timing shifted, with wolves choosing moments of reduced wind or sun exposure to move efficiently. Food rationing occurred instinctively within packs, ensuring survival of pups and weakest members first. Energy conservation was critical in balancing hypothermia prevention and starvation avoidance simultaneously. Adaptive behavior minimized unnecessary risk while maximizing protection and warmth during blizzard conditions. Snow accumulation and shifting winds required continuous evaluation of when and how to move safely. 16. Communication within packs. Wolves relied on vocalizations, body language, and scent marking to communicate effectively during the blizzard. Snow and wind made normal communication difficult, requiring louder calls and closer proximity. Adults guided pups through verbal and nonverbal cues to ensure safety and movement through deep snow. Howling signaled location, danger, or coordination during hunting and shelter-seeking activities. Communication helped prevent separation of pack members in low visibility conditions caused by heavy snowfall. Scent marking ensured recognition of territory boundaries despite drifting snow and changing landscapes. Coordination allowed simultaneous care for pups, injured wolves, and navigation across snow-covered terrain. Observation indicated adaptive adjustments, including more frequent vocalizations and tactile interactions. Communication reduced stress and improved survival rates by reinforcing pack cohesion during extreme cold. Even subtle body movements conveyed critical information about snow stability and potential hazards. Pups learned survival strategies by interpreting adult signals and mimicking behavior in real time. Snow-covered paths required signals to indicate safe or dangerous routes, guiding movement decisions. Temporary dens relied on communication to alert others of shelter availability or changing environmental conditions. Pack leadership ensured organized response, distributing responsibilities for warmth, protection, and navigation. Observation of communication patterns offered insight into social structure and adaptability during crises. Vocalizations alerted members to approaching danger, including avalanches, deep snowdrifts, or predators. 17. Long-term habitat effects. The blizzard altered landscapes, burying prey habitats and changing terrain for weeks after snowfall. Trees were damaged, and snowdrifts shifted soil, affecting foraging grounds for wolves and other wildlife. Streams and ponds were blocked or frozen, limiting water access until temperatures stabilized. Vegetation damage reduced cover for prey species, impacting hunting opportunities post-blizzard. Avalanches and windfall trees created obstacles and barriers throughout wolf territories. Long-term habitat shifts forced wolves to adjust hunting strategies and explore new areas for survival. Snow compaction changed trails and den entrances, requiring rebuilding and adaptation after the storm. Observation showed delayed recovery for some areas due to persistent snow patches and frozen ground. Changes in prey availability forced pack relocation to areas with accessible resources. 18. Predator-prey dynamics. The blizzard disrupted normal predator-prey interactions, limiting hunting opportunities for wolves. Deep snow made prey movement difficult, allowing some species to hide effectively from predators. Hunting strategies adapted to new conditions, with cooperative pack behavior becoming essential. Energy expenditure increased for both predator and prey, emphasizing survival efficiency over speed. Pups observed older wolves learning new tracking techniques under extreme environmental stress. Avalanches and drifts altered migration routes for deer, rabbits, and smaller mammals. Scarcity of prey forced wolves to expand territory temporarily, sometimes into unfamiliar and risky areas. Predator-prey balance was temporarily disrupted, with starvation risk heightened for both sides. Snow cover reduced visibility and scent availability, complicating detection and hunting accuracy. The blizzard created a unique ecological challenge, testing instinct, cooperation, and resilience for survival. Temporary scarcity forced wolves to rely on opportunistic feeding, scavenging, and careful energy use. 19. Community awareness. Villagers became acutely aware of wolves' struggle, learning to respect wildlife while ensuring safety. Observation and documentation of wolf behavior provided valuable insights for survival strategies. Families shared information about dangerous areas, ensuring coordinated human and animal safety. Children were taught to observe tracks and signs without direct interaction with wolves in snow-covered areas. Community meetings highlighted lessons learned from extreme weather and wildlife adaptation. Media coverage and storytelling increased awareness of blizzard impacts on ecosystems and packs. Preparedness plans were updated to include both human and wildlife considerations for future storms. Communication networks among villages allowed rapid sharing of updates about wolf movements. Awareness campaigns promoted empathy and understanding for the challenges wildlife face during blizzards. Community participation in monitoring fostered respect, cooperation, and knowledge transfer for survival. Local elders emphasized traditional knowledge combined with modern observation techniques. Communities learned that coexisting with wildlife during extreme events required patience and vigilance. Educational sessions focused on environmental literacy, highlighting interdependence of humans and nature. Snow and weather monitoring became an integral part of community planning and safety awareness. Storytelling and observation reinforced cultural memory of blizzard events and wolf survival. Participation in monitoring and awareness activities helped prevent unnecessary conflicts or accidents. 20. Lessons learned. The blizzard taught wolves and humans alike critical lessons about survival, resilience, and adaptation. Pack cooperation ensured survival during extreme cold, scarcity, and dangerous terrain conditions. Pups learned essential skills by observing adults navigate snowdrifts, avalanches, and starvation risks. Humans discovered the importance of observation, patience, and minimal interference with wildlife. Energy conservation, strategic movement, and shelter selection proved vital for enduring extreme conditions. Community awareness and preparation reduced risk for humans and supported coexistence with wildlife. Wildlife monitoring during storms provided insight for conservation, rescue, and emergency planning. Extreme weather highlighted interconnectedness of ecosystems, predator-prey dynamics, and human presence. Adaptive behavior, communication, and problem-solving within wolf packs ensured survival under stress. Lessons included respecting nature, planning for disasters, and maintaining vigilance during harsh winters. Recovery involved rebuilding dens, finding food, and adjusting hunting and movement strategies. Snow blindness, frostbite, and hypothermia emphasized the multiplicity of threats during winter storms. Cooperation and communication strengthened bonds within packs and enhanced overall survival chances. Long-term habitat effects revealed the lasting consequences of extreme weather on wildlife and ecosystems. human communities gained understanding of wildlife needs and ways to mitigate conflicts during crises. Survival required instinct, learned behavior, and adaptation to rapidly changing environmental conditions. The blizzard reinforced the significance of planning, observation, and resilience for both species. Extreme events tested both physical endurance and mental adaptability of wolves and humans alike. Stories of survival became part of community knowledge, passing lessons to future generations. The experience ensured that wolves and humans emerged wiser, prepared, and capable of enduring future challenges. When the storm finally subsided, rescuers and rangers surveyed the scene, finding wolves exhausted but miraculously alive. The blizzard had left deep drifts and harsh scars across the forest, a testament to the storm's unmatched power. Scientists studied the pack, learning how extreme weather events can threaten even apex predators and disrupt ecosystems. Communities nearby were reminded of nature's dominance and how fragile life can become when the elements turn deadly. Like and subscribe for more gripping stories of wildlife survival and the unstoppable force of nature. Comment below with your thoughts on how animals adapt to extreme weather and what we can learn from them. The wolves' struggle became a symbol of endurance, courage, and the raw power of life in the wild. Every snowdrift and frozen branch told the story of a blizzard that tested the very limits of survival. Events like this remind humans to respect the wilderness and understand the unpredictable forces at play. Thank you for watching and staying with us as we share this unforgettable story of wolves and the storm that nearly consumed them.